Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. Today I would like to discuss with all of you the difference between somebody who identifies as a feminine man versus a trans female identity, trans woman's identity. I get this in my private practice a lot. I get a lot of people reach out to me trying to figure out how much of what's coming up to the surface is actually aspect of their femininity coming forward, or how much of that has to do with them actually potentially identifying as a trans women. So a lot of times what I see is individuals who either assume that they're a feminine man when in reality they actually are trans identified women. And I also see the reverse true when individuals think they are transgender women when in reality all they are is a feminine man. And sometimes it can be not so easy to distinguish the two, but oftentimes with enough knowledge of what constitutes a feminine man and what constitutes a trans feminine identity, it becomes much more easier. In my private practice, I got to be honest with all of you, I see a lot more individuals who allow themselves to think and to believe that there are more a feminine man than there are actually carry a trans identity. And oftentimes that stems from an inner area of resistance, an inner area of holding yourself back from fully accepting and acknowledging. Usually that stems from either denial or repression, but it can also stem from fear, right? For a lot of individuals, it is often scary to acknowledge or to come to realization that they are transgender, because what happens once you realize you're transgender, your brain can't help it but jump to all of these futuristic scenarios of what that might entail, including transition. And for a lot of people, it is overwhelming and very scary. For that reason, it is natural for our minds to put something in place to prevent us from moving forward, especially if we have not confronted those fearful parts of ourselves. So for a lot of people, I do see that they are, in fact, exhibiting a very strong trans feminine identity. And there's all the signs in their narratives. Remember, as a psychologist, I got accustomed to hearing a lot of gender diverse narratives. And without a doubt, there are definitely pattern layouts there. So they have a lot of trans feminine in their narrative, and yet they tend to think or tend to tell themselves that all they are is just a feminine man. So this video is for all of you to see and understand the difference of what does constitute somebody who identifies as man but has more feminine aspects to himself versus somebody who identifies as a trans woman and has all the feminine aspects to herself. So let's get started. Feminine man, right? For starters, one of the main characteristics, and I'm sure there's far more characteristics than the ones I'm going to go over, but I'm going to share with you the most common ones. And yes, they are going to touch on some elements of gender stereotypes. I think in this world, we just can't fully escape them. One of the characteristics of a feminine man is an individual who, first and foremost, and this is the very important qualifier or distinguisher between a feminine man and a trans-identified woman, is that, first and foremost, the feminine men are very comfortable with their genders. They're very comfortable identifying as men. They're very comfortable with primary and secondary characteristics of their sex. Very comfortable. They're comfortable navigating their life as a man. They're comfortable in their relationship to themselves as a man. So this is the first and very, very important qualifier here, because transgender women, first and foremost, are incredibly uncomfortable with their assigned gender. Transgender women may not have a strong sense of gender dysphoria, but the discomfort, some sense of incongruency with assigned gender is, without a doubt, present. This is the first big things that tend to distinguish. So we want to pay attention that for a feminine man, first and foremost, these individuals are comfortable being men. Now, apart from being comfortable with assigned gender, a feminine man, what distinguishes them from, let's just say, masculine men or just men, is that in terms of, let's start with presentation. In terms of presentation, a feminine man are much more comfortable to be more creative and more open and more receptive to their gender expression, uh, beyond just sticking to very masculine, stereotypical expression of the self. A feminine man, in my experience, are much more comfortable expressing themselves through clothing. Their clothing may carry more vibrancy to it or more patterns to it. A lot of things that, for example, some masculine men may feel very uncomfortable to wear. Colors such as pink and reds and yellows and greens. A feminine men are very comfortable with that because, again, a feminine man by nature are men who are very comfortable with their assigned gender. They don't feel like their expression or any movement toward a feminine energies anyway negates or undermines their comfort with their gender. So their expression is going to be much more open and receptive to numerous expressions out there. A feminine man also energetically and emotionally are going to be more open, more receptive. They are going to, in my experience, they often have incredibly fantastic listening skills, incredibly fantastic attunement, very strong emotional vocabulary and receptivity. Again, it may sound like I'm stereotyping, but by nature, men who identify as very masculine or just men in general, by just byproduct of how men are being brought up, not to talk about their emotions, not to be open, not to be receptive. Feminine men are, in my opinion, men who have integrated healthy feminine in such a way where they have this beautiful balance. Their assigned gender, being masculine, um, is something that anchors and grounds them. But then the way they lean and the way they move forward in the world is this feminine balance. And I think that's a really, really healthy type of mix. I really hate that we still use socially the word a feminine man. These are just really healthy men, in my opinion. These are just healthy individuals who have such healthy balance of femininity and masculinity. Feminine men also are going to be more open and comfortable with stereotypically female activities, stereotypical things that tend to be identified as only women things to do. Knitting, doing laundry, cooking, for example. All of the things that we socially and culturally assign only to women professions, women activities, women hobbies, and feminine men are going to be very comfortable either engaging in it. They're going to have a much more healthy predisposition for those activities. So that's a really, really good example. Now, I'm thinking of how to phrase this. Like I said earlier, it is very common for individuals to hold themselves back from acknowledging that they're trans women, trying to believe or think that all they are is just a feminine man. Not all, but by far and large, I see a lot of people experience this. One of the big distinguishing factors, like I said already, is being comfortable with assigned gender. Now, I have met a lot of people who tell me I'm comfortable with navigating and moving life being a man. And then they go on and to express the body discomfort, which actually what they're describing is body dysphoria without realizing it. For example, if an individual who is assigned male at birth feels a strong desire, daydreams, wonders what it's like to have a woman's body, has a desire to have breasts, has a desire to have female genitals, has a desire to navigate life as a woman in essence, in physicality, has a desire to embody um, female physique. Well, my friends, that is not a feminine man. Like I said before, a feminine man are very comfortable with their physical attributes and presentation of being a man. They don't daydream. They don't think about, they don't desire being women. They enjoy a lot of activities. And in fact, they don't really think about the activities or the ways they express themselves as, oh, I'm being a feminine or I'm engaging in feminine activities. It's almost as if the line between those things that we are so polarizing in terms of gender doesn't exist for them. I see this, in fact, so much in people who are super creative artists, writers, anybody who's very, very creative, have this healthy balance where they go beyond stereotypical genders. But yet again, they don't imagine or envision life as a woman. They don't imagine or envision having the physical attributes of a woman. Transgender women, on the other hand, do. It makes sense because these are individuals who are not comfortable with their assigned gender. There's the individuals who identify as trans women as women. So at the very end of the binary spectrum. And it's natural that one is going to daydream and desire and think and fantasize about physical attributes, physical embodiment of female physique. That is one of the big fundamental differences. So when I see people who come to work with me and they say, I need to figure out, Dr. Z, am I just being a feminine man or is there a transgender issue here? Could I be a trans woman? This is one of the biggest things that I look for. Because a lot of times for individuals who think they might be a feminine man or they're trans woman, what's going to be missing a lot of times is the acknowledgement and realization of gender dysphoria. In fact, if gender dysphoria is present, it is going to be very moderate or almost non-existent. And it is this absence of gender dysphoria that's also very confusing to people where they land in terms of gender identity. And so for that reason, I don't even look at a stereotypical activities or not, because to be honest, those should for all of us go beyond gender identities, right? Because all of those activities and expressions of ourselves, we culturally, socially gender them, but those things are truly without gender. Knitting and doing laundry is genderless. It is us who assign gender to it. So I don't even pay attention to activities. If people tell me, oh, I like to do this and this, because I know for a fact there are a lot of trans women that I worked with who did not engage or partake in stereotypically feminine activities or expressions, who enjoyed what we consider masculine activities. I know a lot of trans women who are into car mechanics. Oh my God, and they're amazing at it. I know a lot of trans women who are into racing cars. I mean, again, things that we culturally gender, but are really truly genderless. And I know a lot of trans women who express themselves in a very masculine, very different type of expression. And yet deep down, their core identity is one of a female. So again, looking at activities, and anybody listening who is right now trying to figure out for yourself, are you a feminine man or you're a trans woman? It's not so much the activities or even presentation, but it is more tied to physicality, right? It is more tied to how do you actually feel inhabiting this body. And a lot of feminine men who are, in fact, in reality, trans women, the way they will tell me about how they feel about their current physicality is neutral. I feel neutral. I don't really necessarily love being a man or don't necessarily love my body, but I feel neutral. So neutrality is also sometimes a clue because, as I said in one of my videos, people who have neutrality oftentimes can be in denial. But again, a feminine man who are truly comfortable being men, but are more in touch with their feminine energy, do not daydream, do not think about embodying female bodies. They do not think about a desire to have breasts or a desire to have a vagina or a desire to look like women. They just don't have it. A feminine man, in my experience, also don't feminize, actively, fully, all the way feminize, unless feminization is tied to something else for them in their lives. But they don't feminize. They don't need to, because again, they're very anchored and comfortable to their assigned gender. So again, we're looking at the relationship to the body. And I had so many individuals who think they are a feminine man, and then they go on and in their narratives, they tell me about all of these physical desires, right? And it's almost like you can hear the resistance because they tell me everything they desire, which is a woman's body, but then they tell me, but I'm also comfortable living life as a man. And here's the thing, the two such strong oppositions seldom can coexist, right? And I say seldom because it's very complicated subject, but for a lot of individuals who are wondering, am I a feminine man or am I a trans woman? Look at those physical things, look at those physical relationship to the body. How do you feel about the body? The body always tells a story. It always does. It's not so much again the activities, or it's not so much the hobbies or all of those things, but it is the body. So and the same thing, I had sometimes people, it's funny, we live in a generation where there's more, I feel like there's more openness, more broadening openness to how we as human beings express ourselves beyond just gender stereotypes. Sometimes I feel like it's also constricting in the same way. So I have a lot of young adult males coming in who wondering, could I be my trans woman because I like all of this feminine activities? And again, if you just like the activities, you're drawn to those things that, again, we gender them culturally, but you truly are comfortable and you're not thinking about any kind of distance or discomfort with your body, allow yourself to enjoy those activities. That is incredibly healthy. Like I said, I hate that we use the word a feminine man. It should be just healthy individuals, healthy human. Healthy human beings have a great balance of masculine and feminine in terms of not only their emotional attunement, their psychological landscape, but also in terms of their presentation, their activity, and their way of carrying out interpersonal relationships. So keep that in mind. So hopefully this is helpful. Comment below. Let me know if maybe you started out on your journey thinking you are a feminine man, and maybe share with people who are reading comments what were the clues that pointed out to you that no, you're actually trans women. Again, trans women, in my experience, have a very strong disconnect with assigned gender. They really do. They may not have severe dysphoria, but the disconnect, that awareness is present. So comment below, let me know, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.